And start streaming. Okay, and then we're going to go full screen here. Where's that full screen? Because we're actually now streaming live. I just want to make sure. People are like, Ryan, you're horrible. Yeah, I know. Okay, well, I don't know how to introduce this. It's not really an episode. This is just stuff has come out so fast and furious in the Sylvester Stallone world where I wanted to talk to my friends who are Sly fans, who are podcast hosts of themselves. Doug couldn't be here today because he's with his kid watching baseball. He'd rather be doing that than talking to us, apparently. So,
man, being a good dad, what's the world come to?
I know. Me, I don't know where my kids are. They're scattered throughout. I'm sure child services is on their way over. But so I sent you guys a message, the original trio, as we call our chat group. And I was like, hey, more Sly stuff just came out, the Instagram stuff. And the reason why I kind of shook me or got me rattled or whatever, my wanting to talk brain was because I just recorded episode 11 of the Rocky Series podcast, One More Round, with Katie and Kyle this morning, and we actually talked about an earlier Instagram that just came out just previous, moments before that recording, and since that recording ended, Sly sent out another Instagram, which I want to talk about with you, but we'll talk about both, and I just want to hear your thoughts, and I think you and I will both bring up points that are maybe, not to say pro-Sly, but I want to make this clear. This is my caveat. This is my, disclaimer before we start talking is you and I don't have anyone on speed dial that counts. We don't have Sly on speed dial. We don't have Erwin Winkler on speed dial. We don't have Dolph Lundgren on speed dial. We know nothing. All we know is what is publicly shared by these individuals. Erwin Winkler, for example, has shared nothing publicly, so I don't know what his thoughts are. I only know Sly's thoughts, and I only know Dolph's thoughts, and I'll share his shortly because it ties in with the new post that Sly brought up today. So I just want to say all that, so if people add us in the comments or in the emails or whatever, that they say, you guys don't know what yeah, you're right, we don't know what we're talking about. We can only talk about what we know, and we can speculate, which is fun. That's what fans do of anything. We speculate, talk about, hey, here's the thing, no matter who you are, you can't tell me how to feel. I'm allowed to feel whatever I want about my fandom. Okay. So my fandom is my own. Craig's is his own. We have no idea what the other one's going to share. So before I get into the first point, Craig, let me just read the first Instagram post that was shared this morning that I talked about on my One More Round podcast. It won't even be out for another 5 or 6 days. That's why I feel like I'm already behind the 8 ball because that episode's going to be edited. This one will not be. All my ums and ahs will stay in this little bonus, whatever this is. So
this was the post that was originally shared and then he took down?
No. This is a new one. So this was, I think, yesterday at the time of this recording. It says here, Stallone just said this yesterday, or this morning. I can't remember. It's very, not even 24 hours ago. He said, just found this out once again. If you hear my voice go up, that means he's capitalized with all capitals. Once again, this pathetic 94-year-old producer and his moronic, useless vulture children, Charles and David, are once again picking clean the bones of another wonderful character I created without even telling me. I apologize to the fans, he says. I never wanted Rocky characters to be exploited by these parasites. By the way, I have nothing but respect for my true friend, Dolph Lundgren. Now, this is going to come into play. Okay, I just want to make this clear. So that was, I don't know what the timestamp on that was. It was less than 24 hours ago. Then this morning I recorded my episode with Katie and Kyle. We expressed our thoughts on this. I don't want to go over that too much, but that's part one. So now, is that your first time hearing that, Craig? That one?
Yeah, I did not see that tirade.
And it's funny. I'm not saying Sly follows my socials because why would he do that? But he's using the exact same film still that I used when I posted this in my socials. I'm just saying. I mean, I broke the news before Sly broke it on his. Anyway, so go ahead, Craig. What are your thoughts on that post on his Instagram?
One thing that is really hard for me to sort of wrap my head around is the professional respect that you extend people, and we all know that Hollywood's a really, really tough business based on the fact of how many people you see that take a shot that don't make it or they're one-hit wonders. So for a guy like Erwin Winkler to have a nearly 50 plus year career as a producer. It has to speak to his ability as a producer. You can't continue to excel in your field in Hollywood if you're not doing the right things. And granted, if you look at his filmography for the last 20 years or whatever, it's not great. But around the time of Rocky, that dude was involved in some bona fide films, and I just don't understand that approach. Like, what's the you can attract more bees with honey, right? Like, it seems like attacking Winkler, and more importantly, his kids, it's not the best way to make sure that you're going to end up with a resolution that you're happy with.
You brought up so much to talk about there. A lot of interesting points. Number one, I know people there's both camps in the comments. Depends where you go. If you go to Sly's Instagram, of course, very pro Sly. And you get some comments in his comments under all of these posts where they're very, Team Sly. Again, that's great. That's his fan base. That's who follows him on Instagram. Why would you go to Instagram to talk about, I don't follow Kim Kardashian, for example. So she could post something anti-Semitic and I would never know it and I wouldn't be able to comment on it. That being said, Sly posts this on his Instagram page, which has a lot of, millions of followers. And of course, the vast majority that were supportive. But every now and then a comment will creep in where they're like, Sly, hey, come on, I've even had some people ask the question, or saw some people ask the question on his Instagram saying, is this been hacked? Because it was so out of character as far as the fans were concerned. Some people were so blown away by Sly's own vitriol towards Irwin, whether it's valid or not. The point is they were so like, whoa. That you talk about that public persona or whatever it is, or bees and honey. They were like, has his account been hacked? Is this Sly on Instagram saying these things? Okay. So keep that in mind. I also wanted to say that, so that was part one. Now, if you go to Dolph's, Sly's calling us. We better,
No, that was a thunderstorm warning. We're actually in Monsusan here in Vegas. So we're on our fourth. I think this will be the fourth day it rains, so.
Oh boy, well, you should come to Victoria, British Columbia, where I am, and 4 days of not raining is the opposite of you guys, yeah. Well, at least in the winter and summer. Okay, so this is important. Now, so after Sly posted that, of course, everyone's like, why would Dolph do this? Or what, or some people were commenting on that, or whatever. Of course, or people were probably now pinging poor Dolph Lundgren doing a workout or whatever, and all of a sudden he's like, ding, 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 ding. Probably saying, hey, Dolph, what the heck, man? Like, you're doing Rocky 4, you're doing a Drago spinoff, what are you doing, man? What's going on? So he posted to his social media just 2 hours ago. Now, this is important because this came out just 2 hours ago, but the latest Sly post just came out after this post. So I don't know what's going on here, and maybe you can help clarify. Isn't this fun? Isn't this great? I love this. Maybe we should start a whole new podcast called the Instagram Slycast. I don't know if we... All right, so Dolph has this to say. He goes, just to set the record straight regarding a possible Drago spinoff. There's no approved script, no deals in place, no director, and I was personally under the impression that my friend Sly Stallone was involved as a producer or even as an actor. There was a press leak last week, which was unfortunate. He goes, I'm in touch with Mr. Balboa right now, just so all you fans can relax. There you go. Now, when you read that, there's things here happening. So obviously Dolph, was approached by the Winklers, was approached by MGM, said, hey, Dolph, would you like to do a Drago spin-off series movie? I don't even know, whatever that is. Of course, Dolph's like, no, let me check my schedule. I'm too busy doing straight to streaming schlock that our buddy Sean Malloy covers on his wonderful podcast. Now, what I'm getting at is, of course, he's going to say yes. I mean, the paycheck must be nice. So I think he said yes. And he says, I was under the impression. Now, I don't know if he's covering his butt by saying he was under the impression that Sly was involved as an actor or a producer or whatever it is. Was that just an assumption he made upon himself is what I think? Because I don't think the Winklers would have said, yeah, Sly, because why would they overtly lie? They may not have brought it up, but Dolph being Dolph, it might have been just like, oh yeah, of course, if it's a Drago series, of course Sly's involved. So I'm thinking Dolph's just saying what he thought maybe should have been, maybe not necessarily what he was told.
Yeah, well, that reads like a PR statement, whereas Sly is clearly not using his PR people to post these things on Instagram, that seems like a prepared statement from PR for Dolph to make sure that, he covers all his bases and comes out looking, like
he's good there. Of course he looks good there. Now keep that in mind. So keep what you just said in mind. Now, I'm not trying to lead you on this question, Craig. By reading that, does it sound like Dolph's not doing it or that he is doing it?
It sounds like if there's a contract prepared, he'll sign it and star in it.
But no. Well, let me rephrase. I'm not even saying whether he signed the contract or not. What I'm asking you is, do you think he's doing it or not? Like, I think if he has signed the contract, this statement doesn't not be. He doesn't say he's not doing it.
Yeah.
Does it say anywhere in this that he's not doing it?
No. It's a perfectly prepared statement.
Because it doesn't say I'm not doing this. All it says is I was under the impression that the Sly was involved, and it just goes. There's no approved script. All that just means is the script's still being finalized. There's no deals in place, which just means what? Back end deals, streaming deals, whatever that means. Still being finalized. That's lawyer talk, right? And no director. Yeah, they haven't hired a director. Everything starts with the concept. Like, yeah, there's no director hired, but you have the producer. You have the producer that approached you and his team. That producer's Irwin Winkler, right? Like, you have the producing team. They brought it to you. And there was a leak. Now, he says here, there was a press leak last week, which was unfortunate. So he's saying, yeah, he knew about this a week ago. Well, how did he know about this? How would he even know about the leak over a week ago if he wasn't involved? Not in the leak, but in the discussions.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, keep that in mind. So now Sly posted that about so Sly posted, hey, I had no idea. I found out on social media, like the rest of you, that this thing was happening, ... Dolph comes back and says, hey man, I still talk to Sly, we're still cool, everything's fine, but I was under the impression that he was doing this, ... Now we go to Sly's Instagram. There we go. And today he posted, I can't show it on this, just go to his Instagram, folks. He posted a picture of Rocky all bloodied up with the thing in his nose from the Rocky 1 fight. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. From the first Rocky film. In that final fight, he's got the nose broke. And he's got a picture of a 94-year-old Irwin Winkler, old man, chomping at Sly's neck like a vampire. Now, I don't know who posted this. Okay, so that's the visual for that one. It's quite graphic. The next one is, now it looks like Rocky, the character in Rocky Balboa outfit, so later in the last film of the franchise, with 1, 2, 3, 4 knives in his back. Then you've got Irwin holding a knife in his hand, and then his two sons holding knives in their hands, about to stab Rocky in the back. And in Irwin Winkler's hand, he's holding the screenplay by Drago, or screenplay Drago.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's in black and white. Oh, actually, I could probably just see. There it is. There. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know who drew that, of course, or who. I don't know who put that together. There's the. Oops, it's kind of blurry because I got that stupid filter on my camera because I don't want you to see my bad garage behind me. Okay. And then there's a picture of Drago with sweat coming off of him. Maybe I should. Where can I put this? Right there. Yeah. And in his shoulder, it looks like a knife being pierced into his shoulder. It's quite graphic. Okay, and then the last picture is a picture of Rocky hitting Drago on the ribs. And that's very telling. So it's a picture of Rocky, the character, obviously, in Rocky 4, hitting Drago in the undercarriage of his ribs. Now, that's a very telling photo there, okay? Now you got the pictures. Here's what Sly had to say. He goes, after Irwin Winkler and family suck Rocky dry, presumed to be the most hated, untalented, decrepit producer in Hollywood. Has he not met Harvey Weinstein? Anyway, sorry. In Hollywood, and his cowardly children have found their next meal, Drago. So I guess that was a knife in Drago's shoulder. There's more. Right? That was a knife in Drago's shoulder. Like they're going to eat Drago, right? And he yells this in capitals: "Return my rights, bloodsuckers!" Okay. Throughout history, so many artists in every industry. Now listen to this. He's speaking. Now my understanding here is he's speaking to Dolph. Let me start that again. Throughout history, so many artists in every industry, recording, painting, writing, you name it, have been destroyed by these bloodsuckers, who have destroyed so many families, lining their pockets with other people. Dolph, why? Not a phone call? Dolph just said 2 hours ago, we're in touch. Sly says 1 hour ago, no phone call or not a phone call? Hashtag parasite producers, hashtag exploited artists and victims.
There's a lot to unpack there. But one thing I should point out is, look at all of the bad relationships that Sly developed around Rocky. I mean, how many years were him and Carl Weathers, for example, sort of not on the best of terms? Even down to the point where Carl wouldn't allow his likeness to be used, if I remember correctly. So that's just interesting that when the shoe's on the other foot, you can sort of justify whatever you've done. But one other thing I want to get to, Ryan, is
please.
It's really interesting here, and I wonder if all this traces back to Creed, circa 2014 or whatever it is when they started talking about the movie, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with all that's been going on with Friday the 13th.
No.
Okay.
Do tell.
So basically, the fact that the reason we haven't gotten a Friday the 13th movie in over a decade is that the original screenwriter, Victor Miller, has been taking various people to court for ownership rights, basically saying, hey, it's my script. I created the characters. They belong to me. And what he's done has been effective enough to prevent anybody from making a Friday the 13th movie.
So this is not uncommon. Of course, we know this wouldn't be uncommon in any industry, let alone the film or music or whatever, book industry, whatever, that people can control whatever rights. Yeah, continue, sorry.
Yeah, so it seems to me, Ryan, like prior to Creed, I don't think any of this would have happened. And in order for Creed to happen, Sly had to sign off on something. Now, granted, Sly co-wrote that movie. He starred in it. He turned in one of the greatest performances of his career. But there wouldn't have been a Creed without Stallone agreeing to it.
To something. Because he didn't have to, unless the Irwin Winkler rights are, you act in this film, Stallone, or we cancel your whole career. I don't think they have that kind of power.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Creed wouldn't have been made. And it almost seems like, I wonder if Sly had a time machine, if he'd go back and not bother with Creed, or give himself a little bit more leverage from a negotiating standpoint, because in 2022, with Creed 3 in development, and Rocky being as hot as ever, and also I want to sort of just put on the side here the fact that Sly was able to sit down and do his director's cut of Rocky 4, Rocky vs. Drago, which there's just a lot of weird things in the timeline. But what I'm saying is 2022 is not the time to talk about your rights to the character. I mean, it almost feels to me like the time to do that would have been like right before Balboa, when nobody really, we cared, of course, but the general public didn't really know that they needed more Rocky films.
Right.
So it almost seems like, from a negotiating and a leverage standpoint, this is like the absolute worst time to try and negotiate rights to a character. And I just wonder what kind of legal situation Sly got himself in, because I can't help but think about that Victor Miller lawsuit with Friday the 13th, where he's prevented movies from being made. So I guess, like anything else, there's always more to the story.
Well, and I say again, we've now seen Dolph's public response to this. We've seen Sly's, of course, and now we have not seen Irwin Winkler's. We don't know his side of the story. What's the old saying? There's three sides of every story: his, hers, and the truth. So, now, again, if anyone's made it this far and they're just Team Sly, unless Sly himself eats a baby on camera, I understand the fandom of Sly. Let me just preface this. I love Sly. Like, the products he's given me as an actor, which is what he is. He's a public figure. So I'm speaking to the public figure. You have to, and I'm saying this to the detractors, I know they're going to come out with this video. So I'm speaking to the detractors of what I'm about to say. He is the public figure. That is that's his bread and butter. He wouldn't be worth $400 to $500 million, whatever it is, and be world known and have thousands of Instagram followers and who knows what off of his money that he makes just Instagram videos and the ad revenue off those things. Like, he wouldn't be who he is unless he's a public figure. I'm not a public figure. I mean, I'm in the public, but I'm not popular. Same with you. Well, you're more popular because you're the godfather of the Slycast. But that being said, what I'm getting at is, so I'm responding to the public, what we're seeing as a public, and that he wouldn't have posted on Instagram if he only wanted positive things. And I saw some negative comments on his Instagram, so obviously he doesn't delete those. So he allows the forum of discussion to happen, because that's how I think people should be free to speak how they feel, or else what's the point? He's speaking how he feels. So my response to what's happened is it makes me hurt in two ways. It makes me hurt that he's hurting. So he's obviously human. This is upsetting him. What happened, whether it's legal or not, and whether the contract is valid or not, is irrelevant. It's now causing him pain. Like, things that are legal don't always have to be moral. Things that are bound by the law doesn't mean you're going to feel good about it. So he's allowed to feel like, shoot, this isn't what I saw happening. When I signed the deal with the devil 45 years ago and I become the superstar that I am, yes, it's kind of like the snake eating its own tail, because had he not maybe taken that deal, we don't know that universe, if he didn't get greenlit by Chardoff and Winkler back in 1975 to do Rocky the film, would you and I be talking about this right now, of any way, shape, or form, about anything?
Yeah. I'm always of the belief that there are certain people that are too talented to fail, and Sly is 100% one of those people. So let's imagine a universe where Rocky didn't happen. Something else would have happened for Stallone. He was too tenacious and too intelligent and too creative and too charismatic to not make it. But I mean, there's just so much speculation there. And the other thing here, Ryan, is from a fan standpoint, and as a Sly fan, and as a fan of Sly as a writer and a creative force behind the camera, which I've talked about a lot on our podcast and on Slycast, and how unfortunate it is that Sly didn't do more of that. But we've all sort of given our feelings on Creed 3 and whether or not we feel that's going to succeed, or whether it even needs to happen. But that's its own thing at this point. But for me, I initially didn't get excited by the whole Drago announcement, just because I think there's a level of exhaustion right now.
Sure.
But also now hearing this, that, I mean, who really wants to see something like that without Sly's involvement? As a fan, like I said, I understand Creed is its own thing now. That's sort of the Michael Jordan, fork in the road. Sure. And, we can be fans of that or we can't, but that's sort of, it's earned its own sort of place now. But like, Drago is he's still a Rocky thing. And again, for me, any Rocky material that isn't creatively, where you don't have creative involvement from Stallone, it doesn't seem incredibly worthwhile to me. And, I'd imagine that the fandom out there would support that argument with their dollars at the box office, right? Assuming that Drago even goes to theaters. I mean,
is it streaming? I've heard both. I've heard it's a miniseries, or it's a streaming, or it's to the theater. I don't know. I've heard conflicting reports. Well, according to Dolph, nothing's set in stone right now. So
yeah. Well, I wonder if this is just another one of those tricks where you announce something to gauge public response, and to get podcasts like this where people from the fandom discuss it. And I mean, this could be one of the Cobra Zombie Squad Netflix TV show that was talked about and everybody assumed was just going to happen.
Yeah, but that's Sly that does that. Sly doesn't do this. He's not. There's no way. Okay, here's the thing. So I think what makes this fascinating, of course, we talked about this at the very beginning, and we're not that we can go wherever we want with this discussion. We don't want to be too long in the tooth here, speaking of vampires, but is that Sly's vitriol. And I think the public is having a hard time with Now, some people that we know that podcast, I won't say any names, but there are some people we know that podcast the Sly fandom are very Team Sly, and to the point where, again, unless Sly killed a baby on the camera, these people will always support Sly no matter what. And like you just said, I support Sly too in the sense of, yeah, absolutely, I love his movies. I podcast about his films, Rocky and Rambo, and all of his other films with you, and you have too. And I sometimes find it ironic that some of these people who claim that, that Sly is just human, that I don't worship Sly, I worship the characters, so to speak, is now we're seeing kind of both. The people are worshiping Sly and the characters, where I think I can only speak for myself that I'm more middle of the road where, yeah, Sly, you're upset and you're allowed to be. But I can't imagine, like, I'll use myself for example. When I went through my divorce, I was angry and I was mad and I said and did things in anger that, that I wouldn't do today when I'm sober, so to speak. Like that energy of anger is gone. And I now regret, and of course, my ex-wife knows this. I'm not sharing anything public. I'm just saying that I wish I was better about the pain. I wish I was better and more mature about the hurt. And we can all feel pain and hurt. That's normal. That's part of being the human experience. But now that I'm sober and older and I look back at younger Ryan, I'm actually embarrassed in some ways about how I even handled that trauma. So what I'm kind of weird, I don't understand, like you said before, I don't know what he's responding to other than, yeah, these things are happening. But the vitriol's come out, these paintings, these gory paintings and imagery and all this stuff. You said yourself that he pulled down the other two, but these are new ones that have come up. Are the daughters happy about this? Is his wife happy about this? Is his agent happy about this? I mean, you could almost just say, no, this is just, again, middle of the road Ryan speaking. If I was upset, I'd be like, hey guys, just so you know, you probably heard there's a Drago series coming out. This is me speaking for Sly. If I could go on his side and, take away the pain and hurt, but now just try to work the business. Hey, you support it with your money or don't support it, but I'm just going to let you guys know, Stallone, I don't support this project. I'm not any part of it. And I really wish they consulted with me, but they didn't. But now, if you want to show up. If you don't, you don't. That's it. You don't even talk about anyone. You just talk about the project. Don't even bring up names. I don't know. Am I being too, what do you call it? Help me out here.
Yeah, no, you're making complete sense. And the funny thing about it is, Ryan, is I'm not sure any kids having ownership of the character is a good idea because, yeah, okay, so we're getting talk of like a Rocky versus Drago. I mean, what's not to say that, after Sly is gone, and for whatever, let's say in an alternate universe, his kids had rights, we'd be getting schlock as well. We'd be getting the Little Marie story. I mean, any franchise can get exhausted by the amount of spin-offs you do. Look at what's going on with Star Wars right now. Like, I think there's a lot of people in that fandom that are just exhausted from, the fact that we're getting everything. They're making an effing, Andor movie, which, is the planet that blows up in the first Star Wars. Like, so we're going to get a whole prequel showing Andor and then knowing it's going to be Star Wars. Like, what did matter?
Yeah, I brought that up in my One More Round podcast I recorded this morning. Actually, I'm not against what you just said, but the other side of that is because I'm not a Star Wars nut like I am Rocky and Rambo. I admit those other films to me, they're fine. I like Disney Star Wars. I enjoy it because my heart and soul really isn't into the films the way I is into the Rocky and Rambo franchises. So, but I enjoy Star Wars. So when they made Mandalorian and Boba Fett and Andor now or Rogue One, I have different feelings about different films, but it doesn't offend me, so to speak. It doesn't bother me that it's being squeezed because I don't care. I understand that it's a business. So here's our closing thoughts because we have 8 minutes to go because we're on Zoom and we're too cheap to buy the subscription. So here's my closing thoughts. So I know people actually went to the end, so they don't at me without listening to this whole freaking thing. Okay, my closing thoughts. Yeah, my closing thoughts are: Sly, you've been my film hero since I was a kid. Like you are. Like I was talking about you when I first started talking about films in general. It was like you. It was Rambo, Rocky, end of story. I've been following your career for almost 4 decades. Absolutely love you. I think you're amazing. I think you've been through a lot of crap in your life. I think you're highly intelligent. I've defended you. I've defended Sly as a person long before podcasts exist, long before the internet exists. I would always tell people, like, don't, Sly's not Rocky, he's not Rambo. Look at him on Arsenio Hall, I used to say, or watch him on Johnny Carson. This guy can talk, he's articulate, he's smart. So this is before the internet, before Instagram. I always defended Sly, saying he's an intelligent, smart guy, articulate, bright, funny, okay? Right now he's in pain, he's hurting. I don't know what the genesis, other than these projects being formed and him not getting any kind of rights from Irwin, and Irwin's 94 now, so he's near death, so maybe he's trying to, this is the next tactic. Maybe this is what he needs to do to get Irwin to shake, or to say, fine, Sly, here you go, leave me alone. I don't know. That's fine. I'm just saying, keeping in mind the journey that I went through as a fan, it's hard for me to now, I would say, defend Sly. Because all these other years I would defend him like, he's a bright guy, smart guy, funny guy, handsome, good actor, cop line. I do all this kind of talk to friends and family long before podcasting. So it's just kind of sad to see at the age of 76 that, he's older than my dad. How much time does he have left on the planet? I don't know. I want him to have his legacy to be what I used to always say as a public fan decades ago or years ago. I'm hoping there is some sort of resolve here, and that everyone finds peace both inside, not just financially or legacy wise, but just inside yourself. Because to quote Tony to Apollo in part 2, let it go.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? What are your closing thoughts on this?
Perfectly put, Ryan. And two things. One, 100 years from now, nobody's going to be talking about the battle over Rocky in 2022. 100 years from now, people will still be talking about that first film, which has been it was deemed noteworthy enough to be preserved by the Library of Congress a couple years ago, I believe. So that's Rocky's legacy right there. And secondly, as a creative person, it always sort of disappoints me to see people getting in the mud about the monetary aspects of things. And this is where I sort of appreciate the fact that I've never had to depend on making money with my ability to be creative. But
right.
Just imagine how we would feel had Sly come at this with the creative angle as opposed to the monetary angle. Like,
or
hey,
legacy,
I'm not getting,
or legacy angle.
Yeah, like I would much rather have Sly telling these stories. And if he had come out like that, I'd be a lot more sympathetic. Anytime somebody who's got more money than I'll ever even be able to imagine having,
I couldn't fathom it.
And it becomes an argument about more money. That's the aspect of things that sour me. And it's just like I said, if you said, like you said, if he had approached it from a legacy standpoint or from even more importantly, a creative standpoint, goodness, can you imagine the stories that Sly could tell in that universe if he had the complete creative control to do so? So that's the thing. I mean, anytime somebody gets involved with the money aspect of stuff, it never comes off as a good look. So, again, 100 years from now, the battle over Rocky in 2022 is not going to matter. I think
you just named the title of this mini episode or bonus episode, The Battle of Rocky 2022. Love it.
But I think you also said that at the end of the day here, Sly's in pain, and that's something you never want to see. So, hopefully it gets to a point where there's enough resolution for him to not let it bother him to the point that he's making these public attacks on people. That also isn't really a great look. Right. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I mean,
so I'm team. Yeah. So I am team Sly in that I want him to find the resolve he needs. I don't know how to do it. He's doing it his way, so I support his freedom to do what he wants for himself and for his family. It wouldn't be how I do it, and that's just my right to say that's not how I would do it. Doesn't make my way the right way. Just my journey, the way I'm wired, my DNA is. I wouldn't do it that way, but I support him in fighting for what he's always done, to fight for his what he believes in. This is what he believes in, and he's not believing in anything that's wrong. So he's believing in what he feels is his. Fight for it, Sly, and I hope you get the resolve that you deserve and need. And yeah, I don't know if this is going to be a new mini-sode every time something crazy comes up, but for now, this ends the only episode so far dedicated to the Sly Instagram story. Part of the last of the Action Heroes podcast. I don't know where this is going to go. We're going to put this probably under the Stallone Podcast Network feed. So if you're listening to there, thanks guys. Thanks for always joining us. And Craig, what do you got? You want to plug anything before we go?
No, just the network in general. There's a lot of good shows there. And I know you're just wrapping up your coverage of First Blood. And I look forward to joining you for I don't know if it's going to be the first episode of Rambo First Blood Part 2, if we're going to create a...
It won't be, I'm sorry. I'll tell you after off this meeting what's happened. But yes, you'll be on season 2 for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, either way, the network, the last of the Action Heroes podcast network, some amazing, amazing content from some amazingly creative and talented people who have... are just doing some great stuff in the podcasting space. And it is as a podcaster sort of who's on the tail end of his podcasting career, if you will, I appreciate seeing people doing the work because it's hard work. And a lot of times it's hard to feel appreciated. So, I respect the heck out of anybody who's continually and consistently putting out content, yourself included. And I also hate that I just use the word content.
All right. With that note, well, that's it. We'll say goodbye. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us. And, I don't know. We'll see, hopefully, I don't know. We'll see you on the next, whatever that is. I don't know. Check us out. All right.